Hello everyone, this is CJanovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and it's a good one today, ladies and gentlemen, as we have been badly waiting, maybe craving is the right word, for a new signing to be announced and a new player to be holding the old scarf up so me and they can go ahead and get. Very, very excited. Well, this is all happening, it's all happening now, and that is what we're here to talk about. So welcome to the football club, Joe Rothwell. May you be as good as you were last year. Now, addressing the elephant in the room, of course, this is going to be the very first time we've spoken about Joe together, which I'll be honest with you, I'm very, very excited about, because again, everything is so fresh. There isn't that worry of will he, won't he? There isn't that worry for myself personally. Am I just repeating what I said in the rumour video, or am I robbing the audience because I'm trying not to say with that in case they did skip the rumour video? There's none of that stress, there's just joy and excitement, and that is what we're here today right now. But again, do apologise about the lack of rumour video. There was one originally planned and I did have it sort of ready to go, but when it became clear and obvious, because this one isn't a secret now, when it was confirmed that he would be signed, I ended up just scrapping the rumour video just to wait out for the official announcement, because again, I'm not want to just fire out a video, grab some cheap views, grab a wee cheap pop, and then within 24 hours post another video talking about the exact same subject, because I don't think that'd be a very good viewing experience for you guys. So apologies if you're wanting a rumour video fired out, but again, I decided to hit a wee pause and just react for the very first time together, and that's what we're here today. So again, there is going to be excitement, but again, equally, I know there is some people indifferent or maybe even frustrated, because on the surface level, this is a 30-year-old Englishman who's bounced for a couple clubs, and we are absolutely pickled and scarred to the bone with failure of moves like this. There is scar tissue here, and again, that lazy surface level clickbait is right there, and it can be very, very painful. But what I'm guessing is, my hope and aim for this video is by the time we've reached the very, very end, that every single person leaves knowing a little bit more about our latest signing, and we've sort of dug in to some of that surface level journalism, and we've got to the depths of what player he is and where Joe could really help us. But enough talking around this bad boy, let's go ahead and dive into this one, shall we? And starting off as always with the old player profile. Joe Rothwell is a 30-year-old centre midfielder who stands at around 6'1", which should appease a lot of people, by the way, that screams we badly, badly need a bit of height in our team, and everyone's too small, the engine room's tiny, and again, that is probably a fair criticism. I think if you take a step back and look at who not only we've signed this summer, the likes of Lyle, Cameron, our overall engine room isn't the biggest. 90% of them probably wouldn't get on the big one at the Pleasure Beach. So that on the surface level should make people very, very happy. But all I would say, again, the smallest guy in our team, usually week in and week out, is the only one that can actually win some headers. So I didn't put too much stock in it. But again, 6'1", got a bit of height, got a bit of presence, so everyone should be happy. But we are talking about a midfielder, and it's important to mention that he has played pretty much across the entire frickin' line in the midfield, you know what I mean? From left to right, he's played pretty much everywhere, especially early on in his career, where he did play a lot on the left hand side and in the middle of the park. But over the last 5 years, it's sort of been identified and narrowed in that his best position to play is right in the middle of the park. The more involved that you can get Joe, the better Joe is, and the better your team plays. Whether that's the 6, whether that's the 8, or whether that's the 10, you get him in the middle of the park and you get him as involved as humanly possible. And you know, as I go ahead and say that, getting him involved as much as possible, maybe that's the best way I can present Joe to each and every single person watching today's video, because he has got so many different aspects of his game. He's so incredibly well-rounded that you can't really pigeonhole him and say he's a certain player or a certain type of player. Maybe another way of saying it is he's a jack of all trades and master in none, and that will sound very harsh, but again, it's almost as a compliment, as again, he is so well-rounded. I mean, just specifically, if you look at last year for Leeds, he sat as a more of a defensive midfielder in the anchor role, playing a wee bit deeper than he has done for the majority of his career, and he was absolutely excellent last year for Leeds, picking the ball up from the defence, gone on the occasional run, but again, getting it from A, getting it to B, and being almost an orchestrator, and that's very good. But is that exactly the player he is? No, because he can dribble with the ball, he can run at the players, he can make defenders miss, and he can unleash some incredible efforts. But again, I'm not saying he's a defender, and I'm not saying he's an attacker either, because his goal catalogue is sensational, and if you're on YouTube and watching it, you're going to be sitting saying, that's a 20 goal, there's a Scotty Arfield that's banging in goals. He's not really a great goal scorer. What I would say is a scorer of great goals, but again, it all comes down to him being incredibly well rounded, and he can do a wee bit everything, and you partner with that with the physicality that he's got, the ability to slide in and get stuck in, bark back a wee bit and no be intimidated and have a bit of presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the more you look at Joe, the more you like him. But again, that might be just me. I like those types of players. You know that right here on the channel. I like the roll up the sleeves type guys. Doesn't matter where you play me, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to get stuck in, and I want to do the job. You're talking about transitioning up to the Scottish game. Yeah, you can see it all working out. And one thing I really like about the signing, and I plan to really dive into in terms of the rumour video before I went ahead and scrapped it, is the air of questions that's around every single transfer, right? Will he fit Russell Martin's system, and will Russell Martin be able to get the best out of him? You know what I mean? That's always questions that come in whenever you sign a player. Will the manager be able to? Will he fit in with that? Well, that question's already answered. That's gone. For the first time right here on the channel, we are signing a player that's worked with Russell Martin, that knows how to get the best out of him and how to play him, and he's played against him for a lot of his career as well. There's a great quote by Russell Martin when he signed him for Southampton, by the way. He says that I hated playing against Joe, and that's maybe the best compliment you can give him. He was a pain in the jacks at each and every single time, and when Russell Martin had the opportunity, he brought him up the road, and that brought some success to Southampton. As obviously he went there for 6 months, helped them with a bit more additional quality, scored goal of the season contender, by the way, with a phenomenal volley, but achieved the objective that was set in front of him. Come to Southampton, help us on our incredible run, help us on our journey, and get us to the Premier League. And that's what Joe done the last time he teamed up with Russell Martin. And I knew Russell Martin's went there and identified and went ahead and picked one of the players he knows very well, despite the speculation and us getting linked with every single player Russell Martin's ever made eye contact with. The actual player he's went after is Joe, and you can see why the more you look at him. And there is one last thing that I want to talk about in terms of his player profile, right? Because I think we've summed up him enough as a player. He can do a bit of everything, right? There is one aspect of his game that he does excel in, and that's maybe his set piece ability, which I find very interesting, because at every single club Joe's played for, barring Bournemouth, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the video, he's been the main man at set pieces. He's been a vital part of the set piece setup, whether that's wide free kicks or especially corner kicks. I believe last season for Leeds he also created the most opportunities / shots on goals from his set pieces. That's about as good as it gets, but we as Rangers fans, we know who takes the set pieces in terms of James Henry, and he's not often for sharing that responsibility. So it does bring up a very interesting question, because there's genuine competition right there, and for me maybe it's us preparing for life without James Henry, not in terms of kicking him out the door or anything like that, but this rotation we're expecting to see from Tav, no playing 60 games a season when he's no going to be in that starting 11. Is our set piece delivery going to fall away and we're going to be starting hitting the first men like Cherny sometimes did? You sometimes have some badgins for Hadji. Now of course none of them are there, but is anyone else stepping up to take anything in our team? Well, we've brought in one now who specialises in that. So whether Tavernier is playing or no, we have a top-notch set-piece specialist, and that's going to be important if you want to go ahead and win things. And when they're both on the park, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who gets those free kicks and who gets those corners. But I guess it's time to wrap up the player profile and just put a nice wee bow under it, and the way we'll do that is by saying, again, he's fairy. He's English. He's coming for the Championship technically, because that's where he played last season. But again, you're getting somebody whose career's no stalled, is getting a guy that wasn't sitting in the background, and you're getting a guy that isn't on the decline, or certainly seems to be on the decline. You're getting a 30-year-old player that's playing week in, week out, who's not only playing good football, he's playing the best spell of football he's played in his entire freaking career, with an understanding and experience of our gaffer, who will bring a leadership and help players identify the way Russell Martin wants to play, because Joe's already succeeded in it, and help bridge that gap with the new players and what Martin wants to do. And again, he's still got a hell of a lot of football left in him, and he ticks a hell of a lot of boxes based on the attributes we need in Scottish football. Again, when you take away from it, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not seeing much to moan about. And I'm a guy that loves to moan. You all know that. But again, there is some pros, but again, there will be cons later on in the video. And that's why these videos now reach a ridiculous length. That I do apologise. I'll try and cut them a wee bit shorter and edit out a wee bit more stuff just to try and keep them a bit snappier if you do feel like the lengths are getting out of control. But I do try and bring you how I feel, and then I try and bring you all the evidence either freaking way. Again, the good and the bad. And that's what we'll talk about as we go on. But before we get to the bad, let's talk about some good then, shall we? And that starts off with his most recent season of football. Before this year, he was again at Leeds, helping them reach the Premier League and overcome that hurdle that's been hurting them the last couple of years. You could add that he was one of the missing ingredients, and that would be fair enough to say, because look how Leeds fans talk about how important he was, what a vital cog in that machine that got them to the big show, that got them to the dance. He was sitting there playing in that midfield road, picking passes, dropping passes here, and overall like standing in his 39 games that he played last season for Leeds, in which he didn't score, by the way, but he did pick up 4 assists whilst picking up 2 yellow cards during that period. And for the true stat lovers, if you love a stat, by God, I have a stat for you, because last season for Leeds, he became the first player since 2013 to do 15 or more passes with 100% passing accuracy whilst grabbing 2 assists. That's right, he put himself in the history books for that pinpoint precision that he went and done, which again is simply incredible, because it's not just 100% passing accuracy, but passing it back here and passing it back there. It was 100% passing accuracy with 15 or more passes whilst grabbing 2 assists. That's about as perfect as it gets with your ball at your feet, and that's what we're bringing up the road. And I imagine you didn't expect that type of stat statistic. Yeah, I might be getting old, I might be getting greyer, I might be losing the ability to kick a football, but I can still bring a stat now and again. But his season with Leeds was very, very good. The only slight issue and only slight brink of negative stuff that we do need to bring up is he did end up picking up an injury towards the end of the season that saw him miss 6 of the last 7 games completely while sitting on the bench for the last game of the season. But again, the way that he plays, the way he goes about his business, again, injuries can and will happen. It is a contact sport, but he's not a guy that's been constantly crooked by injury, so I can ease your fears there, whilst also mentioning he did miss that slight time towards the end of the season due to the injuries. But again, he was fantastic for Leeds, and it's hard to say any other way. So that's one season we've talked about and one promotion to the Premier League. Remember a wee while ago when we talked about his time under Russell Martin and the incredible run that Russell Martin went in with him in the starting 11? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the season prior, obviously, as Russell Martin took Southampton to the Premier League, and he was an important part. Despite joining after 6 months of playing Premier League football here and there, he was given the opportunity to join Russell Martin, went ahead and took it, and he was excellent. Again, the goal, the volley that everyone saw on social media, I remember it actually happening at the time because it was sort of everywhere and everything like that, but again, it's now cropped its head and it's making people think, by God, he's an incredible goal scorer, but again, he's more of a scorer of great goals rather than a great goal scorer. But he was brilliant for Southampton as well, and it actually means over the last 2 seasons of football, he's played at such a good level that he's Mr. Back-to-back in terms of promotions, and again it's for 2 different sides. That's impressive. That's gone in there and making an immediate impact. By God, as a Rangers fan, I want to see that this year. But again, I'm not just here to do the old wax on and sell you all the good news. I've also give you some of the wax off, because some of you might be hearing the pros, some of you might be hearing the praise and sitting saying, right, see, Jeff, he's been so important and he's playing, in my opinion, the best football of his overall career the last 2 years. Why the hell is he available, and why the hell is Bournemouth let him go? Well, as simple as is, ladies and gentlemen, is a very, very familiar story to what we talked about with Max Aarons, and I've spoken enough about Bournemouth this season, I'm starting to feel like a Bournemouth YouTuber, but where their stories do have some similarities, they do take different paths. Where Max Aarons started 13 of his opening 14 games before getting the hamstring injury, coming back and then getting another hamstring injury, and by then they had replaced him in there and he would never go really another sniff. They moved their skipper out to there. Joe's a bit more an interesting one, because he joined an area of the park for Bournemouth where they're absolutely stacked with players that are playing at a really good level, got years of playing at that level, and have the manager's trust. And that's about as boring as an answer. I wish I could sound cool here, but that's kind of really it. And I'm going to say a name you're not going to like, but Christie's a very good player for Bournemouth. Cook's a very good player. He is their skipper, and before he got moved to the right back spot, he was in the middle of the park, springing passes, taking set pieces, being a very good player. And you had the likes of Billings in there. Do you remember Billings? You know what I mean? I don't know how much he's watched Serie A, but he was also loaned out during this period because he couldn't get the game time and the consistent game time and really be what he wanted to be. So he moved out on loan, and he went to join Napoli last season, and he was massive in helping them go ahead and win the league as well. Just because you leave it on loan doesn't mean you're a bad player. And I think it just shows you they've almost got a sort of gluttony of very talented players, or players that the manager trusts in that position. And it was a hard nut to crack for him. And again, you could say he stepped up to the Premier League, never made it, and couldn't really impact himself or force himself into starting 11. That's really fair as well. Or you could look at it as he was never really given a fair crack at the whip with consistent game time and being a main guy in part of their plans, because that's what he was at Blackburn, that's what he then was at Southampton, that's what he was then at Leeds. But again, when he's no been that guy on the set pieces, when he's no been such an important piece of it, he kind of floundered at Bournemouth. And that was substitute appearance here, 20 minutes here, 40 minutes here, 30 minutes here, in, out, shaking it all about, and it just never worked at Bournemouth. But again, sometimes that happens. In the first part of that half season before he went to Southampton, he played 11 games for Bournemouth in the Premier League. Again, wasn't great, but wasn't terrible either. Just never really nailed on and became who he was at the other clubs that he's played at. And he played 20 games in the Premier League the year prior as well, with a very, very similar outcome where he was alright, but just wasn't great, wasn't bad. But again, he wasn't taking set pieces, he wasn't involved in that, so he was just kind of floundering about the place. And it was obvious, again, that he needed a wee bit of loan, and that's what I take away for it, right? I think if we were signing him straight for Bournemouth, where he's not really been playing that well and he's not been really playing that much, then the frustration about signing a journeyman or signing an English player, that would be fair, because you look at him, he's not playing for Bournemouth, but that's not where we're getting him, ladies and gentlemen. What he's went for Blackburn, busting onto the scene, getting signed by Bournemouth. He also had an opportunity to come to Rangers, or at least Gerrard was pushing for it, but the board wouldn't pay for him. That sounds familiar and that, but ended up going to Bournemouth eventually, then no playing. But then what did happen with his career? Did he then slink away? Did he then decline? Did he then play poor? No, he's followed that slap in the face at Bournemouth with two of his best overall seasons in terms of performances and acclaim, if you will, that he's actually had under his belt. So that's impressive. He's been slapped down. He's maybe failed, if you want to say that, but that he still can feel sorry for himself. Now, he put the bits back on, went down there and rebuilt his reputation with two fantastic campaigns that ended with back-to-back promotions. So that's what I look about us signing, a guy that was a vital part of those title-winning side or promotion-winning sides, if you want to say, because Southampton obviously went up via the playoffs. So when you take everything into consideration and you take a step back and look at his overall footballing CV, at the age of 30 years old, he has played 351 games. Again, I'm not taking into consider reserve football, youth football, I'm not interested in that, right? I just want to care about when they play against top flight professionals and they're playing professional matches. 351 games in total, in which he has 23 goals to his name, 29 assists and 33 yellow cards, with 0 reds, by the way. And that makes him another player we're attached with that's got that kind of maturity and mentality of, he gets stuck in, he puts himself about, but he knows there's a time and a place, and he's never put his team in jeopardy of needing to rip him off or playing with less men. So again, that shows a wee bit of maturity, especially when you see him flying into some challenges like, he's a bit of a heat case, but he knows when to do it and when not to do it, and that's an impressive stat. Although I'm going to give you a wee prediction right here. He's never been sent off, right? He's played over 200 games in the Championship. He's played 30 odd games in the Premier League, right? He's played a lot of football and never once been sent off. I'm going to predict, now that he's up the road, that he will pick up his first red card at some point in this season because of the officiating in this country. It genuinely wouldn't surprise me because how bad people are at their jobs, but he gets stuck in, he puts himself about, but he knows when there's a time to do it. And again, he's impacting games in various different levels and he creates a hell of a lot. But that's his footballing CV. That's his numbers and stats. That's when he's played well. Bournemouths know where he's played well, and that's led him on the path to up the road to Rangers, which leads us with one more stop before I send you off to enjoy the rest of your night. And that's going to be the competition for places. Where the hell does he go? Is this the Raskin replacement? Is this replacement? And that's terrifying to say out loud, and I certainly hope it's not the Raskin replacement. If it was, I'd be fuming, and I would be gone mental, and I will be gone mental on this channel. But for me, I think it's actually strengthening and improving the midfield to partner Raskin, because I think if you were to try and build, and if you put every attribute again on the table in what you want to try and mirror and obviously help develop Raskin, but also partner with him to really solidify in midfield, a lot of the boxes that need to be ticked are ticked by Joe. And I think to myself, Raskin and Joe like that's something you can really get behind. That's something you can solidify in middle of the park and really start controlling games. Because I think if you ask every single Rangers fan who painfully, and I mean painfully, were put through whatever the hell last season actually was, every single one of us would sit and say we never once dominated the midfield. Barring Raskin, did we ever really control a middle of the park for game upon game, after week, month after month? No, that was a battle every single time, and we lost it a hell of a lot. We go ran over. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Joe is pretty good at stopping that run over, especially last year where he played a wee bit deeper and got stuck in a wee bit more. He can put himself about, so for me it's a perfect partner to Raskin. Then it's just adding what type of sauce you want to add with that burger, you know what I mean? You've got it there, you then dropping Diamandi in there with Raskin, you've got Joe, and then Dio where he doesn't need to run himself into the ground trying to come back, he's got a wee bit more freedom. That would be nice. You've got Lyle Cameron that everyone's forgot about. He's got a real eye for goal. He knows Scottish football, and he knows the teams that makes us lose league titles. Ladies and gentlemen, he scored a hell of a lot of goals. Or if there's times where we need to be a wee bit more defensive, again he could help in with Barron in there, or he could drop there. Everything goes down one. And there's a hell of a lot of potential for me. He jumps right into the mixer and right into the starting 11. And if you take anything away for this guy's career, when he's been a vital part of the team, when he's made to feel an important part of the team, and when he's a part of that starting 11, he's a very solid to good player. When he's dropping in and out, and he's getting minutes here, or he's dropped this week and then playing next week, and dropped this week and then playing next week, you've seen his career sort of stall, and that was the Bournemouth story. So it's very interesting. Again, I just want to skip to Panathinaikos to see what we're all about. But there's another yin in the door. There's another strengthening in the middle of the park, and I'm very excited to see how he goes out and plays in his Rangers career, because it all suggests it should be a very handy player for us. Not world class, but a very handy player. But again, we've seen great players with great CVs and great pedigrees fail at this club, whilst we've seen players nobody's been excited about going ahead and exceeding. What will Joe be? Who knows, ladies and gentlemen, we'll tell in 12 months time. But that's me done and dusty. I want to hand the reins over to you guys now. Again, apologies about the rumour video, but once it was confirmed that it was happening and it is everywhere, there's no point in me putting out a rumour video and just taking the mic right here. That's just the way I look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, you can let me know. You should just fire out the content, but I thought I'd just wait for it to be announced now so we can sit here and talk about it. But before we wrap up today's video, a massive thank you to every single that is signed up to the Channel Legend memberships. We greatly appreciate you, as we appreciate those that signed up to the supporter range, and obviously appreciate every single person that takes time out of their day to listen to this guy talk about some football things with you. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I've been thsi92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and bye bye.